Welcome to Healthy Conversations, sharing the knowledge, experience, stories, and the wisdom of herbalists and other natural healers, with your host, Stephen Horn. Today's guest, Kimberly Vallis. Hi, and welcome back to Healthy Conversations. I have with me again today my friend, longtime business associate, and a wonderful naturopathic Dr. Kimberly Vallis. And what we're going to talk about today is iron, because there are a lot of people who have problems with anemia, and just giving them iron isn't necessarily going to solve it. So, Kim, why don't you tell us a little bit about iron and why we need it and how it's, you assess that from blood work, what you need to do.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that it was with anemia, because if it's the iron I have to use on my clothes, I'm not sure I can explain that. Okay.
Okay.
So,
Oh, come on. We both know
so
you like to iron your clothes.
oh my word. We've got so many weird, crazy iron things going on right now. And a lot of these, we're all familiar with anemia. That's pretty much a common term, with the hemoglobin and part of the red blood cell transport and everything. We know that especially with females, blood loss can cause, with cyclic times can cause like anemia. But the iron I want to talk about a little bit more, like how we look at iron, how it actually functions, and we look at it within the blood chemistry, and a lot of the weird post-COVID changes that we're seeing. Okay, so it's been an interesting trek to map some of this out with a viral load here. So you can have anemia, basically, or iron deficiency from reduced intake of iron-rich foods, or again, blood loss, and that could even be, if you have ulcers through the gastrointestinal tract too. So, you can kind of investigate with some blood pictures there to give you an idea of what's going on. And then you look at the cells that need the iron because of the oxygen carrying function. So when we look at iron, like with different things that can cause iron deficiency, and, one of the things we see is how iron has to get in a cage. Okay. So
Because iron is an oxidant and it will cause inflammatory damage if it isn't penned up to prevent it from doing that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So, we look at the transferrin. That's like this little geodesic dome, and it's like a little cage. Okay. So the iron is like a tiger. So we got to get the tigers in the cage.
Okay.
Well, we need, the ferritin is like our little animal handler that helps get it there.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we have too many cages that are empty and not enough tigers, or too many tigers and not enough animal handlers. We can have a whole different conglomeration of scenarios going on in here. A lot of times I have also seen that caffeine, and especially high amounts of caffeine, like with some of the energy drinks, it causes the iron and other minerals not to be absorbed. So,
oh, that's interesting.
Especially right after meals, think about this. You use an energy drink to take your iron supplement. Yeah, that's just not going to do anything. I'm sure your toilet's very happy because that's where it went. Okay. So some of the polyphenols in there bind with the iron and prevent the absorption. So another thing, and I know that's a controversial subject, but I see it in a clinical setting with the low iron in a lot of kids, and especially, males and teens. And obviously they're not cycling. And they don't test out for ulcers. So where are they losing their iron? So that was one thing we were looking at. So when we look at some of the iron factors here, what we've been seeing post-COVID is we've gotten that blood clotting situation, right? That's been one of the big things that we've talked about, is how the blood clot formations occur, how different congestive states were going on with the lungs. And iron, again, we've got different types of iron. We don't we need the biochemically safe, like the oxidized iron. But B12 also is needed for that iron to get combined. Well, some of this viral load we were finding out in COVID was really flushing B12. So, and I'm looking at this from blood panels that we've looked at, people that have been working in conjunction with their medical doctor to look at what's going on with this. So, we have put all of this together from different standpoints, right? So, this binding with this protein with the iron, it's making it like the tiger is stuck in the cage and the animal handlers can't get it to come out, can't get it to eat. That's your little analogy, but it's causing that clotting factor, like where everything's just all conglomerated within, all of the stickiness, everything going on in the blood, the proteins, the iron bound to it, and it's not doing the function it's supposed to. And then talking to Marley Robbins, who is a copper expert, we're looking at how the copper is playing a role that post-COVID people are very copper deficient. So we need this for the hemoglobin production, the oxygen transports. I had to wrap my brain around it too, because I was always taught, like with chemistry, copper, you can get a copper toxicity. Don't give people copper, this is not good. And it turns out that we need, the certain types of copper. He has a really good book called Cure, like the CU for Copper, Cure Your Fatigue. I really encourage everyone to read that.
So that's interesting. I just want to make a comment. We have known, like, just empirically for a long time, that people taking chlorophyll, it often seems to aid their ability to oxygenate their blood. And sodium copper chlorophyllin is a copper supplement, right?
Yes. And that's been known, like, the iron and copper have been known for many years of the interaction between the two.
Yeah. So that may be one reason why the liquid chlorophyll, the sodium copper chlorophyllin, is helping oxygen uptake in the blood. Is helping with the copper the ability to utilize that iron properly. Is that
Yes?
okay?
Yeah. So, and when you look at the things that kind of, direct the copper, there's little things called molecular mediators, and they govern the copper and iron interaction. So that's really intertwined. So we're not looking at how the copper is working, and I think we have a lot of people, because of the dietary metals, we have a lot of people that are deficient. So what we've been seeing in putting in a higher, like a 2 milligram of the copper, we have been seeing, and it's a copper glyphosate, and when we put that in, because it plays such a crucial role in the iron metabolism, it actually occurs in several different places. So what the copper does is gastrointestinal absorption, right? So the iron absorption, it gets regulated by those proteins we talked about, mucosal ferritin, mucosal transferritin. Those are parts of the iron family, right? And then that ferritin traps the iron in the mucosal cells, and then you get that fast phase of iron absorption. But it also binds to other metals too. So iron and copper get bound to this mucosal, and that's what it makes this magic combustion that they get to where they're supposed to be. Sometimes they'll compete for binding sites during that intestinal absorption, but they still work together. So then we look at mobilization from the cells. So a copper containing protein, right? Makes the iron transportable. It makes it get on the bus. It helps it facilitate getting on the right bus, and then releases it into circulation, and then it makes it available for use. So it's a nice little pal to travel with. And then it's involved in the heme synthesis, the cytochrome oxidase, the enzymes that contain
copper is involved in the heme synthesis.
Yes, the copper is involved in this. So, and that's how we make hemoglobin, right?
And that's how
we get oxygen.
Yeah, so that's how the copper gets off the bus into where it needs to be.
Right, which makes sense with the chlorophyll, right? Because it has both those facilitations there.
Mm-hmm. Helps it get on the
So,
bus and helps it get off the bus.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it also plays a role in recycling iron from old red blood cells via the spleen. So you can imagine someone that doesn't have a spleen, potentially they don't have that storage capacity, and it helps with the iron uptake. So depending on which context is going on there, copper is going to affect the iron levels in the body. So it's not, again, about just putting a mineral in that's showing up low. I mean, we're probably going to I prefer to add things that are higher, like our burdocks and our yellow docks and some of our
Yeah.
alfalfa and things that are higher.
I've seen people, this happened to me multiple times, who are taking like an iron supplement. They're low in iron. They're taking an iron supplement and their iron isn't coming up at all. And I put them on herbs like alfalfa, nettles, yellow dock in rather large amounts, and their iron levels start to come up. And so I know that there isn't a whole lot of iron in those herbs, but apparently the iron is both highly bioassimilatable, but it's also with other cofactors that actually help you utilize the iron. So, like I said, I would much rather have someone take a whole bunch of nettles
Right,
with
right. And
yellow
I think
dock.
it's because it's the synergistic value of that, just like in herbal calciums. You don't have a high milligram of calcium in those, but we're not targeting the head of a pin. And if it doesn't hit the head of a pin, everything else becomes useless or residual, right? We're schlepping the whole bucket against the wall, and then some of it's going to stick. So you actually get a higher bioavailability to the cell as an end result than just taking a very targeted supplement.
Yeah, I had a lady who was severely anemic after having all of her mercury fillings taken out, and she wasn't getting anywhere. And I told her to take marshmallow, which is high in iron, and nettles, and just throw them into Susan. She would throw them into a blender with smoothies and drink them. And in 1 month, her iron levels were back to normal,
Yeah, I mean,
just from the
and
plants.
some of that is, yeah, and there's copper as part of that essential nutrient in the plant. So,
Right.
the copper actually helps make the red blood cells too. It helps with the nervous system. It supports the immune system, helps form collagen.
Well,
It protects your cells from damage.
isn't the copper part of the synthesis of like your neurotransmitters like
Yes,
serotonin, epinephrine, norepinephrine, and
yes,
dopamine?
yes.
I think they're called catecholamines. Uh,
Catecholamines,
yeah,
exactly.
and so you need copper to be able to do that. Yeah,
Yeah, and I just, and I mean, not going to tell you to go chew on a penny or something, but one thing I think
that's
that
not a
we're
good way to get
deficient.
copper anyway. since
Well, one
since all the
reason I
modern
think,
pennies are not made with copper anyway, they're made with zinc.
right? And I mean, we, I think we're copper deficient because of our sugar intake as Westerners, because copper is necessary to turn sugar into energy, but we're so inundated in our diet with sugar, it overwhelms the copper so that we're not getting what we need from it.
The gentleman you spoke of in his book, that's one of the things he told me is that our high refined carbohydrate diet is depleting copper. And I never had
Yes.
heard that before from anyone
Yeah.
else. I knew it was
Yeah.
depleting B vitamins and other nutrients, but not copper.
Yeah. And then some of the things I look for, other than just the abnormal iron numbers going on, and I like to see like the total iron binding capacity. Does it have the ability to bind that your TIBC in the blood? So there's a whole pattern there. But other than just anemia, sometimes just low body temperature, we associate that with thyroid. Sometimes we need copper for thyroid. Frequent bone breaks, looking at not a calcium. Not the calcium there. I'm looking at copper. Sometimes when the white blood cell is low, even irregular heartbeats like people get with anxiety, it's really, I'm taking copper, and that has, I have to say, with the anxiety and the weird heart palpitations has been the biggest benefit I've seen from it.
Yeah, so understand the copper thing, but what are some other factors that we would look at besides copper with getting the iron where it needs to be and utilizing it properly?
Well, and I think one of the big things there too is we need to look at vitamin C. Okay. So when we look at the different iron uptakes, right? How we know what it's essential for. We know what it does. And then we also know that they give us these really the RDA, which stands for what? Really dumb amounts, right? Of our
Right.
iron intake. Oh, 27, for a female pregnant. Yeah. Um, yeah. But looking at our iron in our foods too, with the lean meats and some of our seafood, poultry, some of our like lentils and spinach and things like that, but we just can't get enough out of that variety of foods because of our growing conditions. It's not in there anymore.
Well, I
So
mean,
when we look at vitamin C, that, we need the vitamin C uptake with that. We need the B12. Those are two essential nutrients that we need to put with the iron.
yeah, and that's a very good point. I just before we wrap up here, what about when they have too much iron? When the iron level's too high?
Well, I mean, you have one genetic marker with that's called a hemochromatosis, and then that's the genetic. And then we have the hemosiderosis, and that one is like more occurring from what's going on. The hemochromatosis from a defective gene. Okay, this gene mutation that goes on. It's an autoimmune thing. So sometimes they'll tell you, don't take an iron supplement, or it could be just high in the blood because you're not absorbing the iron supplement that you have. So before you go crazy with having a higher iron number, try adding some vitamin C, some copper, and some B12, and then see if it doesn't balance
to see if it
out.
helps you utilize the iron that you're there, so it's getting off the bus and where it needs to go.
Right. So, and then sometimes, if you do have the high iron, they worry about it storing in organs and glands, especially like liver. We watch the liver enzymes on that, which can also affect a diabetes pattern too. So, a lot of people have to go donate blood for that. They want you to come in and give blood, but usually, because this is in the iron, because the iron, with the red blood cells, usually if we start looking at how we get the iron where it needs to be, it usually solves the problem, barring any autoimmune situation there.
All right. Well, thank you, Kim, for helping us understand iron and also educating us about the need we have for copper. If you'd like to contact Kim or I, our links are in the description below. Kim is booked months in advance, but she's a great clinician if you really need help. And we work together and put out a number of materials together. So check out our information and links below, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Healthy Conversations.
Hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to catch future episodes of Healthy Conversations. Help us educate others by sharing this video, and please feel free to share your own thoughts, comments, and questions below. To learn more, check out the links below.